Corrie, tell me, you want to be the prospective parliamentary candidate for Bournemouth East. Why do you want to be the candidate?
So I think in Bournemouth, like in the rest of the country, there is a real need for change. I think it's a life and death matter for a lot of people now. We've got an increasing divide between the rich and the poor. We've got lots of children in poverty now. Schools and hospitals and police services are on their knees, and we've got issues such as depression and suicide, teenage pregnancy. They're really increasing and affecting more and more people's lives, violent crime as well, as we've recently seen in the news. And I believe that we can do better. I really believe we can. We're a wealthy country, we have a lot going for us. Bournemouth is a gorgeous place to live. You know, there is enough here to go round. Everybody should have the opportunity to thrive, and that's not happening. And I think primarily because of the lack of political will. I think the majority of those in leadership at the moment, they've not experienced those hardships. They've had a very different life, and actually for them there isn't an incentive to improve things for vulnerable people and working class people, because that's not the life that they've lived, and we really need change.
So you've spoken about the need for change in Bournemouth. What do you think that you bring that we haven't had here before? What sort of experiences have you had that will benefit you in representing the residents of Bournemouth East?
I actually grew up in a working class family in a council estate in the Midlands, which in itself makes me a minority in sort of political groups. I moved to Bournemouth when I was only 18, so I had to sort of build my life again on my own, and I've done a lot of different work here, all quite low paid. I've fought pretty hard to be able to stay here. It's quite an expensive place to live. I've got a lot of experience with minimum wage jobs, 0-hour contracts. I've spent a lot of money on rent over the years and never been able to get onto the housing ladder or even close to it. So I realise that's a problem for many people, but probably not a problem for many people in Parliament today. Quite a lot of the work that I've done has meant that I've been alongside some of the more vulnerable members of society in our local area. So I worked for the council for a while, and I've also worked for local social services and for our housing association here, and that meant sort of doing roles within the night shelter with homeless people, with vulnerable young people, with those who had just left prison, who were on probation. I've also worked in the local women's refuge as well, and I've done quite a bit of youth work and children's work with some of the poorer families in Poole and Bournemouth as well. So I've sort of been able to meet quite a wide variety of people and understand and hear their stories and their needs and what they might need to be able to change, as well as living here and working here and being involved with local businesses, and just trying to make it work as a resident in Bournemouth for 18 years, I think. I also recently went to university as a mature student at 31, which meant that I got to experience what it's like at the moment for students, with the big debt, the loan that we get numbered with at the end, and also sort of more of an understanding of what university life is like for young people. And I think that's sort of given me another insight to the lives of a lot of people.
What's your experience of the Labour Party since you started to get more actively involved?
I've only been a member of the Labour Party for about 2 years now, since Jeremy Corbyn's leadership bid. Before that, my political involvement was sort of outside of parties and more around single issue work. So I was supporting campaigns, different campaign groups and charities around issues like war, sort of social injustices, environmental concerns, and just trying to get involved with those sort of on an individual basis. But since joining the Labour Party, I've been really involved with Bournemouth Lake. We had the snap election quite soon after I returned to Bournemouth, and that was an incredible experience. We were really busy. It was really positive here. I think having spoken to members who have been in Bournemouth Lake for many years, that really it was like nothing that we'd seen before, and I think that's given us a lot of hope that we can win an election now. That's firmly believe that. I'm the vice chair of the Bournemouth Labour Party at the moment, so within that role I've been supporting a lot of the other work that's gone on, doing campaign work out on the streets, speaking to the public around different campaign issues and around election issues. We've done a lot of door-to-door canvassing, so we've been out meeting voters and trying to understand what their particular needs are and try and answer their questions. We've really seen an increase in support through that, and the vote has reflected that. I've also been meeting a lot with members, trying to get to know people and draw them into the party more, getting to know our rules and just the sort of legal and the policy side of the Labour Party, so that I can try and help other people with that, make sure that we're running as best we possibly can, and that we're informed and that we're joining in with what the National Party are doing. And I've also worked with our candidate in the recent by-election that we had here in Muscliffe. I think he was absolutely the man for the job. He was a fantastic candidate, and it was really great to get behind him and support him in that, and to see him really become that future councillor that we know he will be. And I think that really created a great team, and we had a really good campaign there, and I think there's a lot to be hopeful for the future with Bournemouth Labour.
What do you think it is about Jeremy and his team and the policies that he's brought forward that so energised so many people and brought them into the party?
I know for me, Corbyn's leadership campaign was a real turning point, where I went from feeling that there was this huge array of problems that weren't being addressed in our country and globally as well, and feeling like there wasn't a lot of hope, and a little bit like I was beating my head against a brick wall with some of the things that I was trying to get involved in. And actually once I heard Corbyn speak and his credentials, his policy ideas and the work that he'd done and that he'd supported over the years, I could see that he was different from the other politicians that we'd had before, certainly the other party leaders. I think he's a man of honesty and integrity, and he's really given new life to the Labour Party. I think he's encouraged a lot more people to get interested in politics, and more normal working class people actually wanting to put themselves forward, wanting to give their time to get involved in politics. No longer will we have a parliament that's full of privileged, the privileged few. We're going to have a more representative parliament, and that's going to give us the change that we need, I think. And I think Jeremy Corbyn has worked towards that his whole career, and towards equality and representation of all people. So I think we've got everything to hope for.